Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. First off, the polls are open for you to cast your vote for what you think are the top 10 movies of 2013. The link is down below in the video description, but you have until midnight on January 2nd to cast your vote because I realize there are still a number of big movies to hit theaters. I, for instance, just saw Saving Mr. Banks last night. My review will go up later today, probably late this afternoon, because there are a lot of trailers to review later on today, including Jupiter Ascending will go up later, and of course, Godzilla at around 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But I saw Saving Mr. Banks, and right now, that's my favorite movie of the year. It just shot to the top of the list. I'm very excited to talk to you about it later. So let's get on to today's movie news stories. So please go and vote when you can, and I'll be reminding you periodically up until January 2nd. All right, so first story of the day. A number of you have been asking me lately and saying, Grace, you know, you always talk about box office and how crucial it is to a film's success, but can a film ever come back from behind? Can it do well later on and then get the respect from Hollywood it always deserved? And the example I've been using is Austin Powers, of course. The first Austin Powers didn't do so great in theaters, but did well enough in the ancillary markets, which are like, at that time it was like DVD and rental, but now it would be streaming and, on demand in hotels and stuff like that. And so that has been the example I've been using. But now we have a new example. Jack Reacher apparently has done so well in the ancillary markets post its theatrical release that Paramount wants to make another one. Now apparently it cost around $57 million to make the film and it grossed $218 million worldwide. Tom Cruise, like Will Smith, is one of those actors who does quite well in the foreign market. And also, they work hard to get those grosses. They are really global stars, not just in terms of their appeal, but in terms of the effort they put into promoting their film. So that's very commendable. And as you can see here for Tom Cruise, it's totally paying off. And then, as I said, it did very well in ancillary markets. So you had the $218 million gross. Studios get about half of that. So they already, there's the print and advertising cost as well was in there. So 57 is just the budget of actually making the movie. So for a movie like that, you're maybe looking at more around actually 75 or 80 million. But still, with the 218, they at least broke even. A little more than that. And then all the ancillary stuff is gravy. But anyway, the numbers worked out. The Paramount thinks it makes sense to make another one of these Jack Reacher movies. Now, as I said, you might have caught before when I talked about it here on the show, I saw Jack Reacher. I rented it after my parents had told me. They said, we downloaded this. We thought it was pretty good. I was at Phoenix Comic-Con. I decided to watch it in my hotel room, and I was like, what a great movie. After I got past the first 15 minutes that were a little wonky, I really thought it was a great, solid thriller. But I'm a little concerned about the sequel. Now, you might think, hey, I've been just totally on board. But Christopher McQuarrie wrote and directed the first Jack Reacher. He's the usual suspects guy. But he did such a great job with Tom Cruise. They were getting along so well. They work a lot together. He also wrote Valkyrie. He does a number of Cruise's stuff. They are kind of basically, sewn together at this point for their careers. But good for McQuarrie, it's working out for him because he is directing Mission Impossible 5. So he's too busy on that to write the script, which is where I get concerned because Jack Reacher was a very, nice, tightly written, script. There was no fat on it. It was really good. It's lean and mean machine, lean and mean thriller. So I get worried because, as we all know, there are a lot of crappy writers in Hollywood getting work. So I get very concerned as to who they're going to bring in instead. But if Christopher McQuarrie is still involved, they said he might direct after MI5, then maybe he might have a better say in who is the writer, and we might still get a quality production. Because I'm not saying Christopher McQuarrie can write. I'm just saying Hollywood apparently can't tell the difference between someone who can write and who can't write. But I'm definitely, Jack Reacher 2 on my radar. And if they can sew up a really great another production, I certainly would rent it, but I might even go see it in theaters this time. All right, so that's the first story of the day. The second story of the day is that Joe Manganiello from True Blood and also Magic Mike semi-fame has decided to step behind the camera and become a director. And what he's going to do is he's directing a movie. It's a documentary about a strip club. It's called LaBare, and it's based on a male strip club in Dallas, which is apparently extremely famous, and even some say the best male strip club in the world, called LaBare Dallas. And so this is going to premiere or debut at Slamdance, the Slamdance Film Festival, and Joe Manganiello feels that this is going to be a good career move for him. But Channing Tatum, I looked it up. I don't see his involvement anywhere. So I'm curious to what you guys think. Stripping was really Channing Tatum's thing. He actually did the time as a stripper. He put himself on the pole. He didn't just go and film it. And he came up with the idea of embracing that past for Magic Mike, which was a big career turning point for him, part of a really stellar 2012 with The Vow and 21 Jump Street. So, do you think this is kind of, and he brought Joe Manganiello in to co-star or have a supporting role in that film with him. Granted, it was a very small role, but still, I don't see anybody else giving really Joe Manganiello a lot of movie roles, particularly before Magic Mike. So, do you think that Joe Manganiello kind of like stabbed Channing Tatum in the back here, taking the strip club thing and making his own run for it? Or do you think, hey, there's enough male flesh to go around? Or Joe Manganiello was such a good stripper in Magic Mike, he should just really, that seems to be where his talents lie. He should really run with that. So I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think this is a show of non-loyalty towards Channing Tatum? Or hey, it's called show business, not show friends. All right, so that's the second story of the day. The third story, oh yes, 47 Ronin opened in Japan and was a total flop. The thing it cost $170 million to make this movie. And then it unfortunately went to 1.3 million is what it grossed in Japan. Sorry about that pause there for the minute. My computer screen just totally got like darkened for a second and I freaked out that it wasn't recording, but everything's fine. But so anyway, 47 Ronin can't even do business in Japan, where it's set on a very famous, Japanese story. It's not. I don't believe it's a real story, but still. And they have a huge Japanese cast. The only non-Japanese cast member is Keanu Reeves, but Keanu Reeves therefore though is the lead, and also the director is, I believe, American, a white American. So Japan, apparently, the people of Japan were like, "You're not fooling anybody, Hollywood." We can clearly tell this is an outsider film, and I've heard some people saying this, feel it's disrespectful to the original story of the 47 Ronin. So very, very nerve-wracking that this was such a bad debut. The studio is obviously very concerned about the movie going forward. It opens on Christmas Day here in the United States, but it's not tracking very well. Apparently there's something called Consumer Engagement Report, and of the Christmas movies, it is like the lowest on the radar. Fascinatingly, the highest is Lone Survivor, that Mark Wahlberg movie, which doesn't even open wide on Christmas Day. It opens in limited release, and then will go wide, I believe, the first weekend in January or something like that. But Lone Survivor's done a great job picking up its game in terms of the advertising as to why the movie was made, and why it's important to this one soldier to get this story out there, and that's why he feels so good about the movie, because it's allowing him to do that. Very savvy marketing campaign. I almost wish they'd come out of the gate with that, but whatever they're doing now is working. Then following that is Saving Mr. Banks. Great movie, as I just said at the beginning of this video. I'm very excited for Saving Mr. Banks, although I do feel that Saving Mr. Banks is marketed incorrectly, and a lot of people are in for a big surprise when the lights go down in the theater, and I'll explain that in my review. And then also, then The Secret Life of Walter Mitty is like hovering right above 47 Ronin, which I feel that deserves. As you might recall from my review, that is a disappointing film, which is not as good as its first trailer. So that's the three stories of the day. The question comes from Dustin Ellis, and he says, question, long-time viewer, first-time question. That's great. I'm so glad that as Morning Movie News continues, it's encouraging more people to decide to, not just watch, but become more engaged in the show and interact and take to their keyboards. And that's great. Keep the questions coming, guys. I'm trying to answer as many as I can. And sometimes if I don't answer them directly, you'll notice I will make that video you requested, or I will address it in some way. So I'm reading these questions. Okay, so the question is, Grace, what is it going to take for people to stop paying to see the awful reboots and sequels? I'm so tired of it that I will boycott all the films you mentioned today. This was from yesterday's Morning Movie News, where I talked about a new Indiana Jones, a new Top Gun, a new Beverly Hills Cop, all these crazy movies, more Terminator. And I said, unless they make them great somehow. Now, obviously, yes, that's the ideal, that they continue our beloved franchises, Dustin, with respect. And that's where I think we all have a big problem, that, it's almost insulting that they feel we just have to slap the name on there and everyone will be happy. I mean, I had another person wrote a question in saying that they were disappointed that this meant there'd no longer be the Paramount Mountain in front of the Indiana Jones movies worked into, the visuals, and there would be no longer the fanfare of 20th Century Fox in front of Star Wars films. That is true. You will be seeing Indiana Jones-ized Disney castles, and you will be seeing Star Wars-ized castles, kind of like we did for Tron and the like. Disney is definitely going to want to get their logo in. That's one of the whole reasons they bought this stuff, so that you could associate it very closely with the Disney brand, so they could get. Of course, this all started when they said, you know what? We just do not have enough male fans over here. We've got all the women in the world with our princess stuff, but guys are just going over to Universal like crazy. How do we get them into our camp? And I think they just succeeded like gangbusters to the point where they might even be lopsided in the other direction now. But I think that it's a misnomer and a common misconception that women aren't fans of these properties as well. But anyway, Dustin, back to your question. Now, first of all, I think it's unrealistic that we're not going to go and see these movies at least once. I would love, in a perfect world, I have the strength to not see Indiana Jones 5. But I can tell you, I'm not going to be able to get around it. I mean, I don't know if you guys, whoever's been watching my channel for a long time, you might recall when Terminator Salvation came out, I did a comedy sketch at the beginning of it where, it's like, yeah, we're not going to watch Terminator Salvation. We're going to stand strong. And then you're like, oh, but it's the only movie coming out for this holiday weekend. And you're like, crap, I'm going. Because it's fun to go to the movies. So I think a realistic goal for us, Dustin, and all of us watching, and for all of us fans of these big franchises, is to not see movies more than once. And I'm guilty of this. I saw Man of Steel at a press screening, and then I saw it again with my dad for, I believe it was his birthday, or Father's Day. I forget what it was for. I think it's Father's Day, actually. There's no way that this thing came out in March. Yeah, obviously. So it was for Father's Day. We're like, let's go, Dad, I think he likes Superman, he wanted to see it. But I should have been strong. I should have been like, Dad, this movie, subpar, not as good as it should be. I'm not going to reward it with another ticket price. Now, I guess it kind of works out because I didn't pay for the press screening, but still, I should have been strong. And so I think that's what we can do. Don't see these movies more than once unless we truly love them. Don't be like, well, I liked part of it, so I will see it again. Only see a movie again, only give them a second ticket price, or I know some of you, third or fourth, unless you absolutely love it. Now, granted, for instance, Man of Steel, some people do love it. And don't let somebody else being like, I'm not giving that movie any money because I want to send a message. Don't feel guilty about you wanting to give it more money. As I've said before, this truly is voting with your wallet for what movies you want to see. And if by all means, vote how you feel. This is private, just like real voting. If you feel a movie is worth going to see multiple times, you just go. But just be aware of what you're doing. I guess that's the bottom line. Know what you're doing. So I would implore everyone, if you think a movie's not so great, don't see it more than once. Because I know in these big tentpole movies in the summer we want to go out, it's impossible not to go and see them once, but don't see them more than once. All right, Dustin, thank you for your first question. It was great to see you in the comments there. Thank you so much. Thank you for everybody who leaves a question and writes these comments every episode. I really appreciate it, and I do read them, as I said. So please write down below any questions you'd like answered tomorrow and any stories you'd like to see covered and what you think of today's stories and today's viewer question. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later today for those 2 trailer reviews, Jupiter Ascending and Godzilla, and also a Saving Mr. Banks review. That's the lineup for today. A lot of big videos coming out this week. I gotta try and get on top of all of them. Okay, all right, bye.